Today, we welcome our highly driven and inspirational guest who made a life changing move to Texas, where she worked at Oracle after graduating from the University of Michigan. While working in the corporate world, she realized it wasn't what she wanted to do for the rest of her life, and that led her to establish her own e commerce crystal company with more than 13,500 followers on Instagram. She has had great success running the company for the past few years. However, she wanted to do more. She wanted to help people. She educated herself and prepared for many certifications to become a talented manifestation and mindset coach. Please welcome Anna Hsu, known as the little coach potato, not couch.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Have you been?
I've been good. It's been so long since we've seen each other, so I'm excited to reconnect again and meet Gio.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
here.
essentially,
I'm here.
Gio's always here. So, yeah, it's been a year. But let's kind of just dive right into it a little bit. So, so I guess, can you kind of define what a manifestation and what a mindset coach is for the audience? Because this is something that I think is new to a lot of our listeners and viewers who don't fully understand what you do.
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to this answer, and that'd be like, what is a life coach and what is manifestation? Because I am a transformational life coach, and my focus is in mindset and manifestation. So, what a life coach essentially does is to take, essentially, in a short way to say it, is to take you from good to great. Because a lot of times we're just like, we function great, and then we have things that come up and block us from achieving our greatness. And a lot of that is deep in the subconscious. So for me, my background is in biopsychology, cognition, and neuroscience. That's what I graduated from the University of Michigan with. And so I love like integrating science and spirituality so that you can create the life that you want. And with manifestation is essentially at the bare bones is your beliefs create your reality. It shapes your reality. And so with manifestation, I guess you could say is a byproduct or the main product of law of attraction. So law of attraction is essentially like attracts like. If you think about it, everything that we see around us, right, is made up of atoms, right? And we learned that in like elementary school. So
Right.
everything's made of atoms. Everything's made of atoms and everything's vibrating at a certain frequency. And so like attracts like, so like frequencies will attract like frequencies. If you can even test this. So if you put a violin next to a piano and you play the A note on the piano, the A string on the violin will automatically vibrate without you even touching it. Because that is the power of frequencies, that's just how frequencies work. And scientists have found that even emotions have vibrational frequencies. So positive emotions have high frequencies and low negative emotions have low frequencies. And so if we take this into account, if like attracts like, this would explain why like sometimes when you wake up on the quote unquote wrong side of the bed, right? You like the rest of your day is just super like just really bad, super shitty. And then some days you have really good days and then like your life just becomes super positive. And so that kind of just highlights like one of the examples of the law of attraction and manifestation in action.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier you kind of mentioned like, low vibes and high vibes. So,
Yeah.
so would you say essentially low vibes kind of mean a negative mindset?
Yeah. So low vibe is anything that makes you feel like disconnected from joy. So it's like sadness, anger. And it's not to say these are bad. It's just saying that these low vibrations will attract other low vibrational things into our lives. So.
And I feel like, because of COVID in 2020, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do feel these negative vibes, low vibes.
Yeah.
And I think they try to work around it or try to improve themselves. What are some of your recommendations if, let's say, like I'm feeling a little bit down or, work is not going so well? How would you recommend me kind of getting out that kind of low vibration, try to get that out of that negative momentum essentially?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I like to do, well, first is prevention, right? So I like to give my clients something to do. It's called like a sunshine list. I've obviously made a sunshine list because I'm very
Wait,
happy. So
for
yes.
our listeners, what is a sunshine list?
Yes, so a sunshine list is where you list out everything that makes you incredibly feel the experience of joy. So, for instance, for me, what's on my sunshine list is like the sound of the ocean or the view of sunlight filtering through the tree leaves. And I like to write down things that are, I guess I don't say neutral in nature, but like sometimes with like don't I like to not include people on there because sometimes you may love your parents but then sometimes they may make you really mad or something, you know. And so it's like just things that like no matter what situation of life you're in, things that make you very happy. So it's just a list, and then you can imagine this list as a very high vibrational list. So every time we're feeling down, you look at it, you'll be like, wow, like these things kind of automatically lifts your vibration. And I would say another thing would be just doing things like integrating one small thing that makes you happy every day. It doesn't have to be like, oh, like I'm going to do some big thing that's going to make me so happy. It can be just like the tiny things, you know? So yeah, I would say those things can really help.
And
So like essentially, sorry, Gia, go for it.
how often does your sunshine list change? Because I feel like that's something that you look back at a lot, right? And something
Yes.
that you reference when either you feel like these negative or low type of vibes that you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, if I were to think of something that I would do, I feel like something that I started doing was fixing my bed when I woke up.
Yeah.
Even though that's not a fully positive, you know, high lifting type of vibe, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you would consider on a sunshine list? Something that just like kind of starts your day the right way?
Yeah. So for me, I make my bed every day because I think it really just sets up your day for success. You know, it's like at least like when you go to bed, like you accomplish one small thing. And so if you can even include that on your sunshine list, be like, oh, making my bed. Like even though the act in itself is neutral, you know the positive effects it creates throughout your life. So yeah.
And you feel like whenever you have to reference your sunshine list, where do you keep it? Do you keep it like on your phone? Is it like in a notepad? Is it in your journal? Like, is it just in your head?
Yeah, I keep it on my phone just because it's easily accessible. So usually if I'm really low vibe, like I'll like either look at it or so this is what I do with clients. If they're actually like super low and like feeling very powerless, I usually will coach them through processes to help uplift their vibes. This is more so like a very simple thing to do. So yeah.
Would you also recommend meditating?
Yes, I love meditation. So funny stories. Not really funny, but like I guess life-changing for me because like so during college I was very insecure. I actually ended up having a eating disorder because of like all the insecurities I had during college. And through meditation, I think I did meditation for like 20 days straight. It was only 10 minutes
Wow.
each day. And that drastically changed like my relationship with food and just my relationship with my mind. Because the meditation I did was essentially helping you distance yourself from your thoughts. Because a lot of times our thoughts will come into our lives, right? You'll be like, you're not good enough, like you're not worthy. But then it's like meditation allows like a little step back from it. And it's like, okay, like this voice in my head, I don't have to listen to it. A lot of times we just leap into those thoughts and like identify it as ourselves. But those voices in our minds don't have to define who we are.
Honestly, I totally agree with you because in preparation for our conversation today, I actually looked through our older messages. I think I remember after our last hangout in Austin, I think me and Jimmy actually dropped you off at a meditation like seminar or something.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I texted you asking like how it went. And then I was like, do you have any recommendations for, you know, a video on meditation? And I told Gio this, I would say like the past few weeks, I haven't been, I guess, sleeping well enough. Either I'm like anxious because of work or family, COVID, or just, you know, when we started this podcast, I was just like, I want this to do well, you know. So I was just thinking a lot, and actually, like past couple of days, I actually listened to the mindset. I think, or not the meditation. I think the one that you sent me was called spoken meditation, your ideal life, the law of attraction, that one. So I actually been listening to that for the past couple of days, and I think it actually really helps. Like you kind of just sit there in silence. I turn off the lights, have one little light on, and just kind of, like you said, you kind of just drift away from everything. And you know, for this particular video, it asks you to kind of like imagine you meeting your future self. And I actually, like 5 minutes into it, I actually caught, or like, even though my eyes were closed, I like can feel like my mouth was like smiling, and I like that actually gave me like a better mood for my day. And
love that.
So that was awesome. So again, like for our listeners, that meditation actually really helps with just, you know, starting your day, even helping you sleep at night as well.
So you don't need
my favorite meditation. That's my favorite meditation. So
I'll send it to you, Joe, if you want it.
I didn't know that was a thing. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, dude. So you don't need the pills I've been giving you anymore, right?
You mean the melatonin?
Oh no, it's the Wait, this says diphenhydramine. Yeah, that one. Diphenhydramine. So you don't need that anymore, right?
I mean, it helped, but I think with this with this meditation, it's
better.
It definitely helped, because it just makes you go to sleep after like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But I think meditating actually puts you in a better, you know, it takes you out from that negative, or, you know, especially in the morning, it kind of like, all right, once you're relaxed, once you kind of get out of the meditation, you're like, all right, it's a new day. It's a start off, you know, fresh, and just make the best out of it, I think, which is what I got out of it.
Multiple. Yeah, there's like many different types of meditations for different things. So that one I do whenever I'm feeling like, when I'm feeling low vibe, I do that meditation. So as I think when we reconnect to that higher self, our dream or future self, it's like we have a lot more wisdom than we think we have. So it's like, because for me, I always end up talking to my future self, be like, what do I do? You know, like if I'm worried or something. And then the answer just like appears in my mind. And then I feel so much better after doing it. So I'm so happy that you like were able to just start listening to that meditation.
Yeah, like you didn't even have to coach me, but like, again, you've already been inspirational to me, at least. What, I guess, inspired you to become a motivational and transformational life coach? Was it because of your move to Austin by yourself, or did you kind of already had that idea when you were at the University of Michigan?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting. Growing up and like during college, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew that I was good at helping people find their passion and reconnecting them to, like, I don't say their purpose, but like just things that they really love, you know? And I never knew that this was kind of almost a profession. Obviously, that's not the whole scope of coaching, but I think just during college, I just remember everyone being like, oh, you can't follow your dreams. Like you have to just work the 9 to 5 and be quote unquote realistic. But then it's like, so for me, I believe that's like the trick of society, because that's literally what generates profits for like big corporations, you know, like creating that worker mindset, because following our dreams does not benefit the big corporations. And so my goal is to just help people realize that they can achieve their dreams, that it is possible, and just with like just their proper guidance, and that they can find that inner sense of not motivation, but just an inner sense of peace wherever they are. And that I think also a lot of people feel like they are unworthy, or that they have to do something to be worthy, but that is bullshit. Like that is also another trick of society. So it's just like helping them connect with their inherent sense of worthiness, knowing that they don't need to do anything to just be worthy and be happy. So yeah.
So can you clarify what you mean by they don't need to do anything? Because it sounds as though that could be something like, oh, I just want a potato on my bed. Does that mean that? So if I catch the gist right, you're saying that there's a point in time where it's okay to not do the things that society wants you to do, and those things cause you to kind of get in that loop of like, I am not worthy, and my self-worth is not the equivalent of what I want it to be. And that's because I'm like caught in a dream caught in something that's comparing myself to others, right? And that causes a disconnect between your inner self and like what you want to get to, right?
Yeah. So it's not saying like to just do nothing forever, right? Like, but it's knowing that like your worth does not depend on like how much work you put out. Like, yes, like for working and stuff, like you are worthy because you just are, you're human, you know, that's the thing. But so many people have lost that sense of connection to that worthiness. And so just realizing that, yeah, like it's kind of like you said, like the rat race. We keep thinking we need to achieve a goal, but then once you achieve the goal, you're like, I don't feel this sense of worthiness. So they set another goal, but that becomes like the hamster wheel. And so it's knowing that like right now I am worthy. Right now I am just enough. So yeah.
And do you
so I was reading like,
oh, go ahead, Johnson. Sorry. Go first.
No, so I was like reading somewhere where like, you know, as human beings, we always should have a mission. But would you say like, because like a hamster will, sometimes we should just take a step away and be like, okay, like it's okay to just not always going like 100 miles per hour, or I guess like yeah.
I think it's like not making your mission the thing that fills in the gap in your heart almost. It's just like your mission and your worthiness are two separate things.
Gotcha.
So it's like, okay, like I can have these great goals, I can have these dreams and everything, but I'm not going to depend on them for my worthiness or my happiness.
So you shouldn't like kind of consume everything, or like it shouldn't be like, all right, this is only what you focus on, but you should always focus on a variety of things.
So I think so. There's a principle called the be, do, have principle. I don't know if you guys have heard of it before.
I have not.
Yeah. So essentially it's saying how society has told us that once we have the things, then we'll be able to do the things, then we'll become the person we want to become. But we've seen in society that doesn't work. Like, so we've seen like celebrities and people who seem to just have it all, right? They have the money, they have the fame, they have the success, they have everything, but they're still struggling. They still think they're not enough. And so essentially it's the opposite. It's actually we have to embody the energy of the person we want to be first. And then we'll be able to do the things we want to do, because when we embody that, I guess you could say that future self, what would future self me be doing, right? When we embody that, it kind of opens up new like perspectives and opportunities into our lives. And then we're able to do the things we want to do and then have the things we want to have. So I don't know if that really answered the previous question.
That makes sense.
I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense too.
Yeah, it's something that I was reading a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Yeah.
And one of the habits is begin with the end in mind. And I'm noticing you're mentioning a lot of think about what your future self would say. And one of the concepts in the book is, if you died like at this point in time, what do you think people would say at your funeral, right? Or funeral. And you're saying that you can manifest kind of what you want to see in the future by thinking about it and writing it down. Because I know I was looking at your Instagram and I noticed that there was a video about writing a letter to yourself a year later, right?
Yes.
And you said in that video that you'll be surprised how many things off that list you write down, or how many things in that list will actually come true once you write it down.
Yes.
And have you done that? And what are your experiences with that?
Yeah, it's very powerful, because when you write that letter from your future self to your current self, or like that future self writing to the future self in a way, but essentially I can't do time, but essentially you're embodying that energy, right, of that future self that you want to become. So it's like almost like you're already that person. At the end of the day, like we want things, we want the goals, because at the bare bones, like I said, is because of how we think we'll feel once we achieve those things. So, but then when we place like these emotions to only the goal, we forget that we can feel these emotions through many different types of things. And so I think that's why it's really powerful with like goal setting. We can set goals based on like, so this is like a practice I like to do. Sorry, I'm like jumping around.
No worries.
But essentially is like you set the goal and then you write down all your basic goals, right? You're like, oh, I want to become like a successful real estate agent, or I want to like find the love of my life, or XYZ, right? But then underneath that, you write, how do I think I'll feel once I get these goals? And then when we write those, and then you make these emotions your goals instead. And then underneath the emotions, you write, how can I feel these things now? And when you write down how you feel these things now, it can be like, oh, I can feel abundant by having gratitude with what I already have, or I can feel abundant by donating money to somebody. You know, these little things evoke the same emotion, which evokes the same vibration and frequency. And that will ultimately attract different opportunities that will help you get to where you want to be. And that kind of makes you fulfilled in the present moment versus waiting for the future to come.
So just to make sure, essentially, like, let's say I want to be, like you said, successful real estate agent, or, you know, down the road, I want to open a charity, you know, in my parents' name, and that will bring me happiness. Are you saying like, do something else that will also bring you happiness?
So it's more so like, okay, like what do I think I'll feel when I open this charity? So
if it's like, I feel like, right. So it's like, how do I feel? I'll be like, I feel like I accomplished something for my parents, or I feel happy. So like once I write that down.
Yes. So basically this allows you to feel those emotions now versus waiting until this goal to happen. You can still have the goal. It's amazing. It's an amazing goal, you know, but then like, if we only have that goal, we feel like we're restricting ourselves from feeling I feel so proud of myself, or I feel so XYZ until you hit that goal.
Actually, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. So goals should also have an emotional aspect to them, not just a quantitative aspect, right? Because a lot of people, when they set goals, they're like, I want 1,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, that's fucking cool, bro. But like, what is that? Like, that's cool. But a lot of times, especially in the corporate world, right? Because I work in corporate marketing. So whenever we set goals, it's quantitative. So if you were to add an emotional aspect of that, it's like, how do you think we're going to feel when we hit 1,000 followers? That is how goal setting works better. So for example, I'm single. I want a girlfriend. How am I going to feel when I have a girlfriend? How's she going to make me feel? Okay. Johnson, take tips, dude. That's how we do it.
All right, let me write this down, dude.
We're both single. We're both single. So we're just like, oh shit. We now have the golden nugget on how to find a lover.
Emotional.
It'll be very interesting because it's very interesting. Everything I've like, whenever I taught these to my friends, especially with like love, right? They end up finding a guy like immediately after. So like,
really,
just putting it out there.
All right,
like,
Jill.
how can you?
And it needs to talk to all of our friends. She needs to talk to all of our friends now.
It will make you all girlfriends will magically appear for you.
We're gonna find our SOs and our girlfriends, Jill.
It's like when
right
the wedding season,
right after this conversation with Anna, you know.
When the wedding season comes through, man. When the wedding season comes through,
wedding season.
We're all like in our mid-20s now. So yeah, we're all the same age. So once we hit like 27, 28, that's when like everyone starts to get married. Because like I know some people started already to get married now. So
I know it's so wild. I'm like, what's going on?
Like,
I feel like
bro, I'm like,
I don't think I'm ready for that right now.
I'm not either.
There's like so many things we still want to accomplish, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I think we're still at a young point of our age where I think marriage can come later on, you know.
Yeah.
I think all three of us, I feel like we still have a lot of things that we want to accomplish, whether it's our careers, whether it's trying to help other people, and marriage will eventually come. So
exactly, yes. Like, for me, marriage is less like a piece of paper, you know. It's just like, oh
yeah, like you don't even really need it. Like my parents, they actually married. I was the only one who was with them at City Hall like 2 years ago. Like they never actually got that paper. Like they were just married. They just like, all right, your husband, your wife, and they're fine, you know. So it's just like you said, it's literally just a paper. So
so
it's also a tax cut. So
I know. Now that you mentioned, okay.
Just saying. What else? But so, Anna. So then, when we were talking about how you're manifesting your future and your future self and what you want to do, how did you come about learning what a transformational life coach was in the first place? Let's backtrack, because I don't think we know how that happened, and how you felt in the moments when you were like, holy shit, I have to do this. This is like a calling of mine.
So it started when I went to a woman empowerment conference. It was like a woman entrepreneur empowerment conference. And so when I went, I ended up seeing my coach, who I got certified under. And I think I just saw how big of an impact she could have on people just by helping them reconnect to, like I said, that inner sense of wholeness and that inner sense of wisdom. As I think like we are all connected to this source of like wisdom that we all have, but like because we've been so conditioned to depend on external sources of just advice and everything, but like we don't really take the time to pause and think about and just literally listen to what our, I guess, inner guidance wants for us. And so when I just experienced my coach, her name's Alyssa, and she also redefined what a powerful person was for me. Because I think growing up, all the people who I saw as powerful were very assertive and very loud, versus I'm a very big introvert, surprisingly. But like
I feel like you're like an extrovert, introvert, or introvert.
Yeah, I'm an extroverted introvert. Yeah.
Ambivert.
I'm an ambivert too.
Yeah.
I think all of us are.
Yes. So like it was just really cool because she has this like, she's very soft-spoken and gentle, yet she has this very powerful presence. And so I think that's when I was like very drawn to her work. And the more I looked into her work and the impact she had on people, I was like, I want to be able to do that too and help people. So that's how I came across coaching.
So then how do you, so you said like impacting people's lives and helping people is a really big part of coaching, right? When it comes to gauging someone's progress and helping them, right? Is there a way that you measure someone's progress? Is there like a graph that you put up or something?
I like to put milestones, but knowing that the milestones can always change. So if someone comes to me and is like, I want to find like a relationship or something, right? So for me, I'm like, I don't guarantee the relationship, but I can guarantee you that you will be able to be so connected to yourself that you will feel like a relationship is, I don't say no longer necessary, but it's like almost like an extra instead of something to fill the hole with. So.
Are you taking notes? You gotta take notes, Gio.
Dude, of course I am. What do you mean?
I
came up with this idea, dude.
That's how we're gonna find our girlfriends. Connect with ourselves first.
Exactly.
Appreciate.
It's really so. Another thing that you talked about was law of attraction, and that is so. Just is that so? If I'm right, that's when light attracts light, and the certain things in your life that you want and vibes you want attract each other, right? So for example, Johnson and I are friends, which means we attract similar people to us, right? Is that something that kind of like correlates?
I think, so in a way, it's like everyone is our mirror of like what's going on internally. So it's like maybe like there's something you admire about Johnson or Johnson admires about you, but it's like knowing that like you both have it, otherwise you guys wouldn't really be in each other's lives. So it's like you guys are friends for a reason.
We enjoy the grind and the hustle. This is why we're friends, Gio. This is why we're co-hosts for this entire show. I wouldn't even be doing this with you.
This literally came about. Johnson was like, Gio, you want to do a podcast? And I was like, fuck yeah. And then here we are 3 weeks later interviewing you.
Amazing.
Pretty much that's the long story short.
Amazing.
And so like when you touch on that, right? Because we have like similar like personality traits / vibes, right? Do you think that those types of things can be fabricated? So for example, if you join a fraternity, do you think that that's like a fabricated friendship or a relationship because you're put in a situation where you have to make friends with them? Or is it just that you like kind of adapt to your scenario, like situation, which then causes you to have the same vibes?
Let's see. Could you clarify? I'm not quite following.
Okay, so we were talking about how Johnson and I like kind of like we kind of mirror each other in a way because we're like good friends, right? Do you think that that happens when a lot, especially when you join a different group and you get influenced a lot? That's why I use like a fraternity example, because people are like, oh, you joined a frat because they're all fake friends. It doesn't count. You just bought your friends. They're not real. So things like that, right? Is that, does that make sense?
I guess it depends on the person. Like if you think it's fake, then you're gonna like end up surrounding yourself with like people who are also fake with you. But I think it's also like the perception, right? So it's like, if you're judging yourself as being fake, you're going to think that other people are judging you for being fake. And then you're going to also project that fear of fake people onto others. You're going to be like, oh, they're being fake because blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
So it's like a circle. It's like, all right, Gio, you're fake. That means I'm fake. What we're doing right now is all fake.
Nothing exists.
Exactly.
Nothing exists.
This is why whenever so pre-quarantine, we used to go out a lot, dude. Like when I look back, we used to go out a lot. And a lot of times, a lot of our friendships are based around drinking with people. And there's nothing deeper than drinking with people. Like you're just getting fucked up. So do you like a lot of friendships, if they were based off of something deeper than just meeting up socially, right? Does that like affect how you perceive? Have you seen people like kind of like lose their inner self when they kind of just get lost in the partying, lost in that grind, and they don't think about who am I, what am I doing, and how do you kind of reset type of thing, you know?
Yeah. So have you guys watched the movie Soul on Disney?
Disney? I have.
Not.
Joe, you got to watch it.
You have to watch it. I think it articulates like the work of coaching very well. It's like when like how to help people like you said, not become lost souls. So is I think a lot of people, for instance, some people who are influencers, right? They have a goal like, oh, I'm going to achieve 10,000 influencers. They hit it and then they expect to feel fulfilled and everything for the rest of their life. But then they feel empty. They're like, oh, like I thought this would make me happier. So maybe the goal should be 15K and then it's 20K, you know, like, and it becomes like a spiral. So it's like, it's like, that's when we have to come back to our center, be like, okay, like happiness is not outside of me, like lasting happiness. It's like, it's created within me. So, yes.
That's interesting.
Always looking back inwards. So is that why journaling is really important? Or what are some methods that you can look inwards besides, journaling? Because I journal a lot.
Yeah.
So like, what are some other ways you can look inwards besides that?
Yeah, so I would say meditation and a practice called inquiry is very powerful. Inquiry is basically asking like yourself questions that we typically wouldn't ask. So for instance, a lot of times when we have a fear, right? Say it's like fear of failure. That's just the surface level of a fear. What is underneath the fear of failure? And then we like, okay, like, why do I have fear of failure? Like, where did this stem from? Does it stem from childhood? What memories come up when I feel this feeling? And then also, it's gonna sound weird, but like I talk to myself. Like, it's like, so I think it's like we all have like their inner wisdom, right? But we also have our ego. So the ego's main role is to protect us. And so it's always scared to go outside of our comfort zone. And so essentially when I like to see the ego as the inner child. So whenever you hear the inner voice being like, oh, like, don't do that, don't take that risk, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I turn in and I talk to it with compassion. I'm like, okay, like, I hear you don't want to do this. Like, what's the reason you don't want to do this? Is it true that if you do this, that you will fail, and it's really questioning, because the ego is very does not like to take risks and does not like to be outside of the comfort zone.
So when you have that conversation with your ego, I guess like how likely are you going to be like, all right, I'll listen to the ego, or like do you usually kind of just like, all right, I'm gonna take this risk, I'm gonna do this?
Yeah. So I definitely think you can take the risk without listening to the ego, but then you end up sometimes feeling very anxious, you know? So it's like connecting with that anxious part of you and seeing what's deeper underneath it. So it's like that anxiousness might be like, oh, I want to be seen. I want to make sure I don't mess up. And it's like, what are you afraid of if you mess up? It's like, oh, like I'll get yelled at. And it's like, oh, like, if you get yelled at, why does it impact you so much? Because a lot of times, a lot of things stem from childhood. So it's like, there's like big T trauma and then there's small T trauma. So everyone has small T trauma to some extent. It's like, you know, like when our parents yelled at us when we were little or something, we made stories out of the experiences that we created. And then obviously big T trauma is like those really traumatizing things. So
I still remember when I was little, like I lived in an apartment. I was very, very little. My dad got angry for some reason. He had like scissors or something, and he just like cut open a bag of chips. And I was just sat there and I just watched it. And I was like, wow, I'm so sad.
Yeah, see? Yeah, so it's like
still remember it to this day.
Yeah, right? It's so wild. Like, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of our childhood traumas like drive a lot of our behavior today. Like, for instance, like perfectionism. A lot was like, oh, I have to be perfect or else my, like the inner child's like, oh, I have to be perfect or else my parents will yell at me or something, right? That's the inner child speaking. But, you know, and that, so then the defense mechanism is to be like, do everything very perfectly. So it's like, okay, reframing that, like, okay, like, if I'm not perfect, it's safe to not be perfect, you know? And it's like safe, like that perfection, you know, breaking down what perfection is, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so it's just like a lot of things, like I think reflecting on childhood could be very powerful too. If it's small T trauma.
A lot of people are also kind of scared to admit these things, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And have you encountered this, and like how do people deal with that when they can't accept the flaws that they have and also the mistakes and trauma that they have too, right? Because I feel like a lot of people are self-conscious, which is why you always say like, oh, go back to the self and look at what what you want to be in the future, right? And then that manifests into what it will be. So what happens when someone is afraid to admit these things to themselves before, like, having self-acceptance? Basically, they're having problems with self-acceptance.
Yeah. So I would say if someone's having trouble with self-acceptance, they're judging a part of themselves as bad or as negative, right? But it's more so reframing that. How is it not bad? How is it so innocent that I developed this mechanism of protection? Is like kind of like seeing like I said, like an inner child. When you imagine the ego as like an inner child, as like a kid, right? It doesn't know any better. And so it's like we have the compassion with it. And so it's like, oh, like I hear you, like you created this defense mechanism because it served you at one point to be very small and to like not take up space. But now it's like, okay, how can we work together as like your current self, as like the adult? This is called reparenting in like the therapy and coaching world. So it's like, okay, how can I reparent this inner child and allow it to feel safe while it progresses through life?
Yeah, these are deep things. I see Johnson thinking really hard right now.
Yeah, I'm like,
he's having a life crisis. Anna, you gotta save him.
I'm like taking notes right now, and I'm like, dude, how do I like what?
Yeah, exactly. It gets pretty deep.
Yeah, no, it really does, because I know that when I was working with my therapist, self-parenting. Reparenting came up because I used to be like very unemotional. And I know Johnson knows this, because I used to, like, example, I would hear good news and I'd just be like, all right, fuck yeah. And then that's it.
Yeah.
And Johnson's like, dude, do you not feel anything right now? I'm like, I'm happy on the inside. I used to say that as an excuse to not react
Yeah.
to things. And then I had to reparent
Reparenting.
myself to be more expressive.
Yeah.
Because my therapist was like, why do you think you did that? And then it unlocked a memory that I had like when I was
Yeah.
younger. And I was like,
Yes.
holy shit, that was repressed
Right?
in my head. And
So
something came out of it.
powerful, right? Yeah.
It was.
Yes. So powerful. I think it's really interesting because when we're younger, like our brain hasn't developed enough to understand fully what's going on. Like for instance, like one day, like a kid who always got like a hug from the like dad, right? When he got home, maybe one day, like the dad was like had a really bad day. And so he forgot to hug the kid. The kid in that moment, like is her, like his or her, or their brain isn't developed enough. And so maybe it creates a story of, oh my God, I'm unlovable or something in that moment. And then they carry this story with them for the rest of their lives. And so it's coaching is more so like, okay, uncovering this and like, okay, how can we parent this part and show them that they are lovable and that it was just the dad was like not having a good day, you know? So, yeah. But,
so talking about a little bit self-ego and everything, kind of, you know, sometimes you just kind of have to be the parent and tell it to be like, all right, like, how do you say it? Kind of like trying to word it properly to kind of, I guess, negotiate or kind of just talk to come to an agreement on certain things. I just kind of want to ask, like, when you started your own e-commerce business, did you have kind of self-doubts, or did you have like a little inner child kind of be like, all right, maybe you shouldn't quit your corporate job. Maybe you should just
for sure.
dig it out for a couple of years before making this jump, because, you know, starting your own e-commerce business isn't easy. You know, there's a lot of risk.
For sure.
Like, did you have that inner ego kind of trying to pull you and like not allowing you to make that jump to like, you know, give up your corporate job and then doing that entire jump to your own self, you know, your own little business?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like anytime the ego feels like it's being threatened, like, because ego favors comfort over growth anytime, even if comfort means just something that it's familiar with, right? This is also a reason why a lot of people like stay in abusive relationships, because it's what the ego knows. So yeah,
it's like what's kind of kind of comfortable with.
Yeah. So then it's like when I quit my job, like I remember I went into my corporate job knowing I was going to quit, because I mainly did the corporate job so I could like meet new people, because I just moved to Austin at that point. But I remember like my ego was literally like yelling. It was like I could hear it be like, this is the dumbest idea ever. Like, you get good pay. Like, why would you quit? You know, like all the things. And I remember just having to just talk to it and like meditate and just calm and like just. So a practice I like to do is called, my friend calls it throwing out the inner child, but essentially it's not.
That like, sounds a little abusive.
That's what my friend calls it. But for me, it's more like, so you first feel like where that voice is in your mind. And then you literally take your hand and imagine you're like grabbing that voice and like setting it in front of you. And then you imagine, and then you have the voice talk to you versus it being in your mind. Because that creates a degree of separation. And so for me, I imagine it as like the younger version of me. I'm like, okay, like, what are you scared about? And like, oh, it's going to fail, blah, blah, blah. And like, okay, well, even if it does fail, like, will you be like proud that you just even try? Like, and I'm a big believer of anything is figure outable. Like, no matter how bad life gets, you can figure it. Like, it is figure outable. That is like one of my core beliefs. And I think a lot to do with that is trusting that it'll work out, because I think it's like, even if you fail, like you learn lessons from that, right? And then let's see, I think I was supposed to go into pre-med and I decided not to, and then but because I decided not to, I don't want to say, I don't remember if I failed a class or anything, but maybe I did. But then because I like didn't do well, I am now where I want to be, you know, like, so I think it's like all the failures that we encounter in life end up like being stepping stones to our success in the future. So
I totally agree with you. I feel like all of us should go through some sort of resistance, some sort of struggle. And then, if you go through more of these struggles, once you get over it, I feel like you feel so much better. You learn something from it. You feel like you have the ability to accomplish anything, even though even if that inner child tells you, no, you're gonna fail. I think my mentality for 2021 is like, you shouldn't really care about what people think, and also you shouldn't care about that little child. Like, you should just take that jump, take that risk, and just go with it. And then if you fail, it's fine. At least you made that attempt.
Exactly.
It's just like our podcast, Gio. It's like I feel like not a lot of people are doing it, and I feel because we're doing this, some people might be like, oh, you guys are just wasting your time, or just again, like sometimes my roommates are like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing is not even like interesting. But to me and Gio, it is interesting. We're talking to people who have gone through different experiences, and I feel like us two and our listeners will be able to learn from it. And even just having a conversation with you, we're growing. And even though, right? So I think I just went on a tangent. I don't know where that was going,
that's great though. I think you highlighted a great point. Like, some people inevitably will not believe or will think it's like things are boring or whatever, but then like, because like you believe in it, like there's bound to be like other people who do too, so it's like, like those like interesting clubs out there. Maybe there's a club for like we had a club on our campus about like school, like feeding squirrels. So it's like, that's what I mean? Like, so it's like, there are bound to be people who resonate with you and your message and your mission. So
I did that.
It's like wait, what'd you do?
Wait, what'd you do, squirrels, dude? Like, you in Boston Common, you can feed the squirrels.
And it was a club. It was a club?
It's not a club. I did it on my own.
Okay.
Those things have rabies, by the way, just for reference. Like, you should never try and pet those because they have rabies. But fun fact, there is a albino squirrel in Boston Common. For those of you that go to school there, there's one, and if you find it, that's the albino one. So, fun facts on squirrels.
Must be a lucky squirrel.
Oh yeah. Sorry, what were we talking about?
I know. I kind of just went on a tangent.
Wait, so your tangent was about how you have to like kind of just do it and go out there like. Don't mind what the inner child says, because you don't know what the result will come of.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Like, the ego scope is like just so narrow versus like when you get out of the comfort zone, it's like, so broad. We don't know what will happen. The ego is like, I know what will happen. You're going to fail. But then it's like, I think it's like whenever you hear something that's like absolute, you can kind of know like it's the ego talking. So it was just like, like, the ego thinks it knows everything like that, and it knows everything. It's trying to protect you, but it's actually not, so it's like recognizing that.
Do you think
like I'm sorry.
Do you think that you've overcome do you think that you've overcome that the egotistical voice in your head? And if so, how'd you do that?
So I believe that life is like a continual practice. So as you elevate, as you grow, the ego is gonna shift and change. So it's more so like recognizing it's the ego trying to protect you versus like getting rid of the ego. So it's like changing how we relate to it. Be like, oh, like it's just trying to protect me. But I know from experience that like what it's saying might not be valid. So it's based on its past experiences and just its limited scope.
So would you say like your inner ego is like probably like a devil's advocate, right? It's like you think a certain way, you have that ego thinks this just so you can have that kind of some sort of conversation, having another Johnson in front of me or having another Anna in front of you, just to have you have that conversation for you to maybe make a better decision, I guess, out of it. I
guess so. It's like, so the ego was formed to protect us when like when it was in the past. So there's like Siberian tigers and everything. Like we had to be on watch. It does still protect us, but like the need for protection is so much less now, like actual physical protection. And so the ego has evolved to like hinder us from growing in like other aspects. So instead of like fearing a saber-toothed tiger, it fears like like the boss, like your boss of the company getting mad at you, you know, it's like, oh my God, it's life threatening, but it's actually not. But like our ego hasn't evolved as quickly as like we have as like humans, as like on a biological level.
That relates to something. Wait, let me get it. Okay, so we're at work one time and they were talking about how people these days, you create cortisol when you're stressed. And that stress is actually your ego telling you, hey, your boss is gonna come over, he's gonna like destroy you.
Yeah.
That causes you to have like forever stress when you be going to work.
Yeah.
There have been studies that have shown that, don't quote me on this, that when you are forever stressed at work, your cortisol level goes up, which then causes you to have like long-term health issues.
Yes.
So
wait, Gio, what's cortisol?
Cortisol is basically like a hormone that regulates like I think your stress levels or something like that.
Yes.
And they were teaching us at work like how people basically are having diseases that were supposed to happen when you're like 80 or 70.
Yeah.
And it's because our human body response is basically telling us, hey, I fear this moment. It's like a saber-toothed tiger is trying to come attack you.
Yeah.
But really, it's just someone talking to you that you're afraid of. And you're saying that the ego is kind of making you fear those things, which is then causing you to stress yourself out, which then causes you to overthink.
Exactly.
Am I encapsulating that properly?
Yes, perfect. And I would like to expand on that. It's like knowing that this ego is created by the story we tell ourselves about the situation. So it's never actually the situation that causes the stress. It's our story that we've created around it. And so, but because we created the story, we can reframe it, right? So it's like when we like, okay, look, so then that's where we like dive deeper and it's just like, okay, I have this story. Where did it stem from? How does it relate to like my beliefs? So I like to say like, it's like our beliefs create our reality, right? And to break it down, it's like you have like, you created some belief when you, during your upbringing or like however, like the environment, you adopted a certain belief and this belief shapes your perception and the perception shapes your thoughts and your thoughts shape your actions and your actions, that's how you act in the world, and that becomes your reality. So it's literally like your beliefs become your reality. And so we can go back to the belief and reframe it and like tell like a different story. So that's like the power of like reframing. Yeah.
So would you say like don't take, like you said, we frame a story, so we shouldn't maybe make assumptions then when we form these stories then?
I think if it's not serving you, then maybe question the assumption that you're making. Gotcha. So if it's not serving like your betterment. Yeah. Also super cool that you touched upon the cortisol study. Like, I don't know if you guys know Dr. Joe Dispenza. He talks a lot. He basically is like he demystifies like meditation and like law of attraction and everything. And he's like, basically what happened to him was he got into a very severe car accident when he was like running a marathon. And then he got like slammed by like a truck and then like he was paralyzed from like the neck down, I think. And then he went to all these different doctors. Like he was a doctor himself. Like he like was, I think, in neuroscience. And then he was only focused on Western medicine. And then all the doctors like, we can't help you. Like you're going to be paralyzed for life. And then he's like, I will not accept this, basically. And he started looking into different methods. And then he actually used meditation to fix his body, to heal. It's so wild. And then
no way,
he did. And then like, I think it took like 11 weeks to do it, but he walks now and everything. But because he's like a scientist, right? So he wanted to figure out like, if I can do this, can I help teach other people to do this? So he basically looked into the science of it and now like hosts like seminars and teaching people how to do these things. So I think it's very powerful because he mentions how like we are all living like with so much stress every day, like, and that's not normal, you know, like, like we're not born to just live in stress for the rest of our lives. So it's like very powerful stuff. Highly recommend his work. So, yeah.
People are stressed about being stressed these days, and
literally,
it's really true.
Yeah.
that sounds like that sounds like something. So a lot of people hear this stuff, right? And they might criticize it. So when someone criticizes this and they don't fully accept what you're saying, right? Because I believe in this type of stuff because I grew up in a superstitious household. And a lot of things that people like they deem superstition, right?
Yeah.
And like aren't real. What do you say to that? Because it's hard to kind of change someone's view once they make a perception, right? Or a concept of that. So what do you say to like people who criticize this type of stuff?
Yeah, I think like for me, I don't focus on the criticism. At the beginning, I even had that fear, I was like, are people going to judge me for being too like, quote unquote, like woo woo or like too like mystical or whatever. But I think like the proof is in my clients. The proof is in my family, my friends I've impacted, like their lives have been transformed by this work. And if that's not proof enough, I'm like, I don't need a research paper to show that like my friends and my like clients' lives have improved, and it's like people, like you have people who have like healed themselves and like better their mindset, and people who are just like, oh, like that's BS, but it's like, but they're living their miserable lives. So it's like, we'll just let them live their miserable lives if they continue arguing for their limitations. But for the people who are open to it and can be like skepticism is good, it's like you want to be aware, like like don't like fully believe in anything like immediately. It's like use your own judgment, but also test things out. I think because I'm background in neuroscience, right? So for me, I'm a very big like tester, and like so it's like, okay, try things out for yourself. And I'd actually love to share a manifestation practice with you guys if you guys would like.
We're down. Joe, you down?
Do I have to turn my lights off or is this fine?
Oh, no. It's just a thing to like, here, I'll just explain it. So basically you just choose something random like that you want to see, like maybe in the next couple of weeks. Something that's like, it can be like pink unicorn or like, something random, but like believable for your subconscious.
So something realistic. Yeah. So something like realistic that we can imagine happening, or something that we can get.
It's like something that kind of pushes your limits of believability, but also it's like possible, like a pink car, or like for instance, my friend the other day was like, Anna, like I don't believe in like I get manifestation, but like I can't just have like a giraffe appear when I want it to be, right? Oh my god, I'm sorry, my hand. Okay, anyway, so then like I was like, yeah, I mean like yeah, of course, like I think a big misconception in manifestation is that like I think if I think it, I'm gonna get it, like it's just like sure, but it's like you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna be a millionaire and then $1 million is gonna appear. It's just like that's not essentially how it works, because your ego will reject that because it's not so believable. And so that's why I like to break things down. I'm like, okay, like okay, I'm gonna go off on a tangent, but just like
keep going.
Just keep going because we all went on different tangents earlier too. So just
so essentially it's like feeling the emotions. But going back to the this experiment is like, okay, pick something that you want to see. Oh wait, before that, my friend who didn't believe in the giraffe thing, right? So like I think later the next day we drove to like a coffee shop to do work because things are open here. So then like socially distanced though. And then it was so funny. We parked on the side of the street and then there was a huge mural of a giraffe like right next to us.
No
so it's just
way.
like, it's like manifestations will come sometimes in ways you don't expect, right? Like you can be like, oh, like a pink hippo. Like you probably won't see a pink hippo in the flesh, but like you might see it on a sign or something. So I invite you to like just find something small to just manifest. Like my friend did like a red bird, and then what else do other people do? But yeah, just like something small, choose something small that you is like almost like,
can it be something where like something happens to someone?
Yeah.
Or so someone gets something?
Yeah, it can be like getting a free cup of coffee or like something like borderline believable, or like pizza.
All right, I got one. Gio, you got one?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, awesome. So then I invite you this week, like, I guess like every day, like imagine for a little bit, like how you'd feel when you get it. So if it was like, for me, if it's like the giraffe or something, right? My friend would be like, oh my God, like that'd be so interesting. Like what the heck, like that feeling. And then you can imagine it. You can like, if it's something you get, like you could like see, like, how does it feel in your hand? Or like, how does it like smell if it's like food or something, So yeah.
So should we tell you what we thought, or is it just kind of
if you want to,
we
it
have
doesn't
it
matter.
we have it in mind, and then
yeah, you can tell me if you want to.
Gio, you want to go first?
Yeah, I wanted free lunch from work.
Okay, yeah. Amazing.
All right, mine was I wanted my parents or my family to get the vaccine.
Okay. Is it believable enough for you?
I think it's believable. It's like attainable, right? Like it could happen, but at the same time,
I think I would say choose something a little bit less, like a smaller thing, because I think something that prevents manifestation, because something that prevents manifestation is when we're very attached to the outcome, because then like that prevents so you probably really want your parents to get the vaccine. So.
I do. So then I can go back and see them. So I'm a little selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also really want free lunch. So that's not the same thing.
But if you don't get free lunch, you're still okay, right? So it's like
I am, but it's like, oh my God, it's free.
Yeah,
you get free lunch.
Yes. Oh, I'm looking forward to your free lunch. You're like, oh my God, I got it. Yeah, so I really like this practice because like it builds up your faith in like just like that things are working for you and that you can create your reality. And we can go into parallel realities next time, but like that's the whole different like science of like manifestation, which I post about. So yeah, this is very high level.
It's really, stimulating.
Makes you think a lot.
Is there anything you want to tell our listeners, our viewers, some last minute thoughts? Anything you want to kind of close out our podcast today? Anything you want to, any small lessons, any tokens?
Lessons, there's so many. But
honestly, I learned the past hour, I learned a lot. And I think there's a lot of things that we use on a daily basis, and I think they'll all help improve our lives.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is when you're feeling down, like honor those emotions. Like don't feel bad for feeling like down, And a practice I like to share with my clients is like giving them like 3 minutes of just like space to rant and getting it all out, And then afterwards is just like reflecting, okay, like what does my inner self, like what does this ego need? If I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, okay, like what do you want to feel? So what would it feel like to be enough? And then how can I bring that emotion up now? And imagining yourself giving this emotion into that younger self, to that just self that really just wants love, it just wants to be seen, it wants to be accepted. But knowing that those feelings of acceptance and love is like, you have to give that to yourself. Like, even if the person or the thing that you want happened and they did give it to you, you have to give it to yourself ultimately, or else it won't last. So it's like, okay, creating that emotion, and you can create the emotion within you. So
Do you have anything you want to add?
What are your thoughts on that, Johnson? I want to hear your opinion.
My thoughts?
Dude, I'm fucking kidding. You don't have to answer. I was kidding.
No, my brain is, when I heard all that, my brain was like, holy like, I'm just like trying to comprehend everything. And
yeah. It's like think. Okay. It's like
you saw my expression, right? When Anna said that, I was just like,
yeah, it's like imagine, think, feel, future wise. That's kind of like what if you were to sum that up, it's like, think about what you're feeling, think about how you want to feel in the future, and then manifest that.
Right.
Yes.
Sum that up in like 3 words.
Manifest it by already feeling it, you know? So exactly. It's like feeling and trusting. So.
Because you're feeling like you're going to that moment.
Yeah. And usually like opportunities will pop up because you're feeling what your future self would feel. So
good things will happen to all of us. I believe in that.
Yes.
So how did you feel about being on the podcast?
It was great. It was fun.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was really nice.